I'm good. I'm all set.
All right.
I learned the internet the other day.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta catch up with this, man. After your pod set, how glad you do that.
I know. Yeah, we're gonna dive deeper this time around. We'll do all sorts of fun things.
Can we just yell out?
Oh yeah, you can. I don't care. Wait.
Ladies and gentlemen!
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
This is Ben0xA, hailing from Chicago.
Love you too, random person.
I'm not sure if he's a Blackhawks fan, but that's all right.
Go sports ball.
Enjoy.
Is that the game with where you put it over the hooks and you get the hole in one?
Yeah, high five.
Yeah. Okay, good. Sports ball. Yay! It's like the one time a year that I actually hate being on Twitter because I don't follow any of it, and I'm like, I really don't care, but go team. Yeah, you know. Woo! All right, so welcome to Gray Hat PowerShell. Like I said, I am Ben0xA. I already heard somebody say, what is it, Ben1010 now because of SlideShare? SlideShare messed up the URL. It's not my fault. So if you want to get these slides on all of my decks from every other talk I've given before, it's out of there on Ben0xA. So a little bit about me. It is Ben0xA, which is the hexadecimal representation for 10. It is not Ben0xA. So no, that is not my name. I actually got that. We're like, hey, Ben0xA, I've been following you a lot. I'm like, sorry, I can't talk to you. So I am from Chicago, BurbSec Channels on the IRC. I'm a security consultant at Biopoint. I've been there for about 8 months now, and they're a company based out of Auburn Hills, Michigan. So for those that might have known from previous talks, I worked in the healthcare industry for about 13 years, and so I'm happy that I'm no longer in that vertical. I actually get to do a lot more fun things like this. So I'm a developer. I've been doing that for a long time. I started with a 2D side-scroller game and decided to make it a little bit more fun. And every time you shot one of the bad guys, it would randomly delete one of your files. So the longer you played, the worse your system got. So I'm a big-time gamer, as is put there. Played every game that you could possibly think of. Love seeing the gaming technology, but I'm a big-time geek. Love doing this type of stuff, and every chance I can get, I want to geek out. But before we get too much into this talk, there's a couple people that I want to thank. So first of all, are you guys having a good time at ShowMeCon? No. See, you guys can do that crap at the first talk for Jason's talk. That's perfectly fine. This is 2 p.m. Okay, you guys have food in you. Are you guys having a good time at ShowMeCon? Come on! That's a lot better. Okay, good. So I want a lot of feedback. Interrupt me, raise your hand, it's perfectly okay. You guys are free to troll, okay? So I look like I'm 12, okay? So I've gotten carded everywhere. I got carded to get into the bathroom. So it's difficult. I did get carded for sparklers this past 4th of July. It came up on the screen, it said age limit, 14. They brought 3 people. The manager, the sales associate, whatever, they didn't believe my IDs. So big thanks to ShowMeCon. So part of my talk is very interactive. Now, I have some specialty beer here, okay? There is one rule. You can't open it here, okay? The casino would not be very happy with us, so you are welcome to take it back to wherever and open it and consume it there. Now, this is brewed specially by Cold Cut Special. So everyone say, thanks, Cold Cut Special! You guys. Oh, come on. Thanks, Cold Cut Special. It's really simple. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thanks, Cold Cut Special. So this beer, the way that you get it is if you ask me a non-inane question. Now, I didn't say insane. I said inane. Inane is lacking of logic. Like, you know, what's my favorite stuffed toy to sleep with at night? It's Kirby. But if you ask me a non-inane question, you can come up and get a beer. Okay? So that's the whole idea. I want this to be interacting. I don't want to just talk at you. I want to talk with you. There's a lot of cool technical stuff with PowerShell, and I can really geek out, and I can talk for a lot. But a lot of the times, especially when it comes to a speaker, we want to hear from you too. Because we come to learn what you guys are doing. I only have one company that I can work for at a time on a typical basis. You guys get a lot more experiences, and you may experience something that the speaker hasn't. And so we want to hear from you. We want the questions that come from you guys. So this is my incentive to get you guys to talk to me. All right. So welcome to Powershell. This was taken last year with Jason Street downstairs, and someone immediately memed it for us. That was just us just being dorks, and then Lopi decided to meme that, so that's one of our favorite things. But a lot of people will take pictures of me and turn them into other interesting pictures, like some jerk turning me into, putting me into a baby carrier on C-3PO. Yeah, explain that to your kid. All right, so disclaimer. So before we get started, this is a gray hat talk. Okay, so gray hat, as a lot of you guys might know, it's in between the white hat and the black hat hackers. And so we're going to be doing some fun, malicious things. It's not intended to damage other people's systems, but it is something that can potentially make things break. So this is my disclaimer. Yes, that is lorem ipsum. So the legal part's out of there, so it's there. It's lorem ipsum. But really, don't use any of these tools, techniques, or anything on a system that you do not have permission to use, please. I did this in a production environment once, blue screen my domain controller. We were down for about 3 hours. So don't do this unless you have permission. Even if it's your box, just make sure you understand that you could very well damage things. So just keep that in mind. You want to make sure that you run things in production first. I mean, test first, right? Yeah. Let's go there. So this talk, it's not an intro to PowerShell. Okay, I did an intro to PowerShell talk last year. There's no way I can cover every technique in 45 minutes. And so if you're expecting this to be an intro, I'm sorry I can't go at that pace just because of the amount of content that I want to cover. It just so happens I did do an intro talk. So if you want, you can go ahead and look up Practical PowerShell Programming for Professional People. How's that for alliteration? Again, those slides are on the same place, and as well as the famous Iron Geek put that on his site. So you can go ahead and grab that. You can even grab it from my site, Ben0xA.com, or YouTube, and you can type in that fancy URL. So either places, any one of those different places will get you to that talk. I actually go through the very beginnings and get you spun up to speed. So if you want to go and watch that talk and then come back and watch this one, that's fine too. Okay, so what are we talking about today? So we're going to dive into .NET. Now I know I said PowerShell, but we're going to learn a little bit here about what PowerShell is. We're going to look at some of the offensive tools. We're going to look at some defensive tools because go blue team, yes? Yeah, it was like 3 of you. That's the problem, folks. We're going to talk about some resources. We'll do some Q&A, and if you guys want hugs, I'm all about the hugs. So you guys are welcome to give me a hug. All right, so we need to dive into .NET. Microsoft .NET Framework is what controls a lot of everything that you're dealing with right now. I just went to Microsoft Ignite conference in Chicago a few weeks ago, and all of the new servers, everything that they're rolling out is really heavily based on PowerShell, desired state configuration, and .NET. So if you think that you can relax and not learn this language, you're going to be very surprised, even from the infrastructure side. So forget security. If you just want infrastructure, you're going to need to know this. You can't even spin up a new server without knowing some PowerShell because there's no longer a GUI. It's all command line. Okay? So these are the things that are coming. So now is the time. If you thought, well, I don't really want to jump on this wagon yet, well, there's no more time to wait. Because everything that you're going to be utilizing is going to be living, at least in the Windows environment, is going to be heavily based upon this. They've also open sourced the core, which now means you can put a lot of this .NET directly on Linux natively. So it's only a matter of time before you see PowerShell on Linux. And I just want to see that day just so I can say ha 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 to the Linux people, because they would be like, that's the dumbest thing ever. And I'd be like, yes, it is, but ha, you got it. So before you create any tool, you need to understand what you're building upon. Okay? It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if it's Python or Ruby or Java. Please, and by the way, if any of your students don't do Java, please, just stop. Let's let the pain heal. We can all heal. The 3 billion devices use Java. Let's get that down to like none. Okay? Please, go back to your professors. But you have to understand what you're building on. If you don't understand what you're building on, how do you know that your tool is going to be effective? This is not VB script, okay? This is not, I'm just going to write a bunch of stuff. When you're doing a lot of this stuff, you're actually hitting an assembly. So understand that PowerShell is actually sitting on .NET Framework. It's not just some random, it's not like the Python compiler where it reads your script. It's actually .NET. PowerShell is not PowerShell.exe. How many knew that? That's what I thought. PowerShell.exe is not PowerShell. You see, when you do a Python program, you would do Python and then do the program. Well, in PowerShell, you can do that, but that's not what's actually running your PowerShell code. Most people can't get past that idea that it's PowerShell.exe is not PowerShell. PowerShell.exe is just a host application. The only thing that PowerShell.exe is doing is giving you an interface between you and that application, and PowerShell. PowerShell actually sits in the system.management.automation DLL. Obviously, they didn't want to call it system.management.automation. Here, let me fire up my system.management.automation script. Hold on 1 second. No, it's PowerShell. It's a lot easier to say, a lot shorter. So that's why they've done that. But this DLL, this assembly, is where all of your PowerShell goes. So let me look at the operation flow here. So basically what you've got is this is what you see. This is PowerShell. This is whatever you see. But that's presented to you from the host application. Now, in most of the cases, that's going to be PowerShell.exe. There's a host interface which communicates from the application to your screen. It creates a run space. The run space is where all of the magic seems to happen. This run space is, you basically set up a way for your scripts and everything else to communicate with you. Within the run space, you can have multiple pipelines. And within the pipeline is where all of your scripts and commandlets and where any output would come from. And that would go from the screen. So because of this, PowerShell only is the PowerShell.exe is just this piece. That's it. It doesn't do any of this piece. And in fact, I'm going to show you how you can create your own PowerShell.exe. Okay? So understand that when you're dealing with PowerShell and when you're going to create a lot of these tools, you're going to be creating a script, and typically it's going to be in the PowerShell scripting language. But you're not limited there. You can build a C# application and compile it. So your tool is not, don't limit your tool based on what your preconceived notion of what PowerShell is. Understand you're accessing the full .NET library at this point. And you have full control over these run spaces. So my talk is very demo intensive, so we're not going to be sitting here just looking at all this stuff. So let's take a look. So, let's do this. Let's see if that compiles. Yeah, I didn't think so. All right. So can everyone read that in the back? Can you read that okay? Yeah, you guys good? Okay, if you can't, move closer, like really close, awkwardly close. Okay, so there is a way that you can access libraries directly within .NET. So there's this great library called PowerShell, which is fantastic. And for those who don't know, when I'm accessing an assembly, you just put it in the brackets there. So if you want to access any assembly, that's how you do it. The double colons is how you access the individual methods, classes, and properties that go along with that. So in there is this thing called create. Now what this is going to do, and I'm going to store this in my PS variable, what this is going to do is this takes a lot of the heavy lifting from the pipeline creation. So remember, PowerShell.exe, which I'm running right now, it's hosting a run space. Okay? It has its own pipeline, it has everything else like that. I want my own pipeline, because I want to take my own commands and do it outside of this one. Now there are specific reasons for that, and I'll get into that in a moment. But this is the way that you can create your own pipeline and issue commands outside of the current pipeline that you're in. So I'm going to go and create my run space. And if we look at the object, everyone know the getMember command, right? So getMember, it actually shows you the object, and you can see all the methods that are available to it. So this is a fantastic way. If you have no idea what you're dealing with in PowerShell, use getMember. The alias for that is GM. And so you can basically figure out what you can do. Well, these methods are important to us. So anything that says method, that's something that you can call. So I'm going to call this add command here. There you go. So what this is basically saying, okay, great, I've added your command for you. And you can check on that by doing that. So you can see in the commands object there that there's that's sitting there. Now, normally when you do get child item, it just lists out the processes, everything that's in your directory, right? Most people knew, if you've been doing PowerShell, you kind of knew that. But if we invoke this one, so that's what you would use to run any commands that you have built in there. Let's see what we get. What did you guys notice? Not only did I explode my screen, but what happened? It didn't pull from the directory that I was in. It pulled from my system32 folder. Because I created my own pipeline. I'm demonstrating the fact that I'm creating my own pipeline that's outside of my current run space. So let's try this. Let's take the commands, clear those out. Oops. Okay, now I'm going to do add script. Okay, and that does exactly what you might think it might be. Okay, got it? Oh, I hit page up. Ah! Everything always works the first time, right? Okay, so if I look here, it added the two commands, created my output, but it doesn't really give me any information. So if I look at this, the point that I'm trying to make is I've created a separate run space so I can issue all of my commands. So that's well and fine. It's kind of silly that we're doing this within PowerShell, but what I want to show you is that that's actually not the point that we're trying to do this. So if I look here, did I close it? Must have. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up Visual Studio, and I'm going to show you how I've created my own little PowerShell container, and I can run any PowerShell command from a console application. So any C# developers in here? C#? Any? 2 of you. That's awesome. So let me open up my awesomer application. I'm humble. Okay, and we'll run it. Tell them I'm not available. Sorry, give me a second, guys. I'm running 2 VMs at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a console application. I'm going to set up my own individual run space. I'm going to set up my pipeline. I'm going to add some scripts to it. And then I'm going to handle the output that comes back from the application and then display that in the console window. I must not have hit F5. There we go. Okay, so let's make this a little bit bigger so the people in the back can see. There we go. So APS. So that's just my application. It's just nothing, but if I type any command like get child item, it'll set up my run space, set up my pipeline, and then run the command. Now it looks a little bit different just because I'm handling my output a little bit differently. So let me show you that code. That would be why. Why is it that everything is like super tiny? You guys probably can't read that, can you? Oh, crud. Shoot. All right. Well, anyways, I had this set up earlier. So basically, it's just a console application. I create my run space, open it up. I set up my pipeline like we did earlier with the PowerShell.create. I add my the command, which is whatever you typed on the line. I invoke it, and then I grab all of your output and put it out in the display. So why is this important? Because when you're creating the tools, whether it's for offense or defense, you don't want to rely upon the PowerShell.exe host application, because that doesn't necessarily meet all of your needs. PowerShell.exe may not meet the need that you're trying to do. So I've seen a lot of tutorials and everything on how to, go through this whole ordeal to create an interface for a lot of your users to do it. Well, if you're going to go through all that work, why not just make it easier on yourself? Why not just create an interface and launch PowerShell yourself? That's part of the reason. That's part of what I did when I created the POSHSEC framework. The POSHSEC framework is exactly that. I just built my own host application, and I built security features and tools within it. So that way, I now have an alerting SIM. I have a baseline checking system. I can schedule my scripts to run whenever I want, and I don't have to worry about dealing with PowerShell.exe. So this is a project that Matt Johnson and I worked on, and for those who've seen some of my talks know that I've talked about on several occasions. And there's, again, you can see several of my talks where we talk a little bit more about that. But the point that we're trying to make is that when you create these tools, don't get hung up on just PowerShell or PowerShell.exe or the script itself, because you have way more control over what you're dealing with than what you might realize. All right, so we'll let that finish initializing. All right, finally loaded. Okay. All right. Back to where we were. Come on. There we go. All right, so there was a code from what we were talked about, and then typically I do this in my talk, and I put this in the slides for those who weren't here in the class. So that's basically how you can create your own awesomer application as well. So those are the two different things that we've been working on. So now let's look at some offensive tools. A lot of these tools did exactly what I just demonstrated. They set up their own run spaces a lot of times. They set up their own pipeline, or they compiled it themselves. So a lot of the tools that we'll demonstrate today, they'll actually just be raw PowerShell scripts. So there's PowerSploit, which was written by Matt Graber and Chris Campbell. Veil PowerView and PowerUp, which is Will Schroeder. And POSHSEC mod, which is Carlos Perez. Now there's several others, but these are the ones that I typically like, and I know a lot of these people. They've worked really hard on a lot of these projects to make them really well. They document them so you can reuse them and go from there. We don't have enough time to cover everything, so we're going to look at PowerSploit. How many of you guys have heard of PowerSploit? It's like 4 of you. Good, so then we can learn. But these are some of the different modules that they have. I'll show some fun ones here at the end. But we'll look at a couple of them, and I want to demonstrate just a little bit about what they can do. But before you do this, okay, PowerSploit, okay, it can damage things. If you don't know what you're doing, just be careful about firing it off, especially against your boss's computer. It'll be funny, but you'll be filling out your resume shortly thereafter. Okay. The other thing is that don't just assume that putting PowerSploit or those type of modules on your system is a good idea. If you're a penetration tester or you're the attacker, you want to avoid writing to disk as much as possible. So I know we have Symantec out there. It's a kind of a free plug for them. I like Symantec just because it keeps everything safe, and I don't believe AV is the end-all solution. But it is going to catch a lot of the known threats, and so if it's a known threat, I'd rather know about it. So just recently, they started flagging PS1 files, which is cool. That's awesome. That means they're actually looking at the PS1 files, figuring out what the script is, and highlighting that. So now Mimikatz and get keystrokes and the PE injector, they're all flagged by Symantec. So good on them. And I'm not sure about any other vendor, but I know that they're at least catching it on disk. You can bypass this, and you can load it directly into memory. So let me show you that. We're going to import. We'll go to our modules folder. We'll import our module Powershell. Okay. And so now, if we look, there is no invoke Mimikatz, because Mimikatz was wiped out by my Symantec. But let's go ahead and get around that. So there is a way to get around that. Come on, I hit Shift F5. Silly LibreOffice. Jerk. Let's do it with that. Let's do it with the menu. Start from current slide. You ass. We're going to leave it like that. If there's any LibreOffice developers in the room, I have one want to talk to you after this. So there is a way that you guys could do this, and that's with invoke expression. And so basically what you would do is you would use invoke expression, new object, and I've got the command right here just so I can reference it real quick. Net.web client, and then we're going to download string. And hopefully I have my internet's working fine here. And we will do, I think the path is raw. Oh, that's HTTPS. Raw.github user content or data? Content. And then it's manifestation, Powershell. I think it is case sensitive. And master, exfiltration, and invoke Mimikatz. Looks good. So what that should do, that's actually going to go out to the web, pull down his invoke Mimikatz PS1, and it's going to load everything directly into memory. At no point is this going to write to my hard drive. So semantic, heuristics, all of that stuff is going to be immediately bypassed, and it's not going to see it. So this is all directly within memory. That's not semantic winning, by the way. That's just, it just wants to access the internet. Oh, come on, guys. Seriously. I guess, you know, as everything works in the world of demos, it worked great back in the conference room. So give it a second here. It should go out, pull it out, download it, load it into memory. And then once that's done, I'll show you. But seeing that we're talking about Mimikatz, I want to demonstrate something. So Mimikatz is a great tool. If you run it, this is a Windows 2012 box, and so if you run it, one of the cool things about it is that you can actually pull out the credentials. And it doesn't matter how strong or whatever your password is, it's going to pull out. So on this box, this is my password on the system. So it can be strong, it can be super duper long, it doesn't matter. So Mimikatz, one of the big things with that is that it's able to pull out your credentials. So once somebody gets a foothold on your network, if they're able to invoke Mimikatz, especially if they're doing it from memory, so it's going to bypass all your AV, it's game over. It's done. So that's one of the things. But I did talk with Microsoft and been working with Lee Holmes and some other people that are working on some of this. And so you'll be happy to know at the Microsoft Ignite conference, they were actually talking a lot about this. So if we look at this one now, let's go to... So we run it here on our Windows 10 box. So this is a pre-edition. By the way, it's coming out July 29th. Don't worry about this cast. That's okay. It's working as intended. But you'll notice that the password is actually null now in Windows 10. So plus, yay for Microsoft. +1 to them. Yeah? 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 Come on. Yeah? +1 to them. They're at least trying to do things right? Right? So they're trying. So that's that's at least a win for them, that they are definitely working to try and get some of their security control, and they're working with people like Matt and Chris and Carlos to try and make sure that a lot of this stuff is working out well. So if we look here, if I do this one now, get command, name, invoke, it's there. So Symantec, which is running on my box, which wiped it out, it's now running, and now I can run invoke Mimikatz, which I'm not going to do because I'm not telling you what my password is. Oh, darn it, right? Yeah. Do you think I could restart these slides from this deck? How many do you think yay? How many do you think nay? Nay? Oh, come on. Please work. For crying out loud, please work. You ass. We're keeping it right here. I'm not going to go any further on those. All right. So let's talk about some defensive tools. So there hasn't been a lot of traction on defensive tools that are out there. Oh, I wanted to show you one more tool from there instead of this. It's get keystrokes, which I didn't. I think that one wiped it out. So let's do get keystrokes here. So get keystrokes is also a really cool thing because you may not have everything that you need on the box, but somebody is eventually going to interact with the window. Let's say, whatever the case may be. So if they type, all of a sudden their password in any sort of window, or, notepad, Jane, I reset your password. It is now welcome 2015. Please reset for the love of all things pure. And this meets our minimum password complexity. Bang. Okay? All right? Because I know some of your password policies are that ridiculous, right? So now if I look at that, I don't think I actually... oh, hold on. I didn't tell it the path. Log file. Keystrokes. Log. All right, so let's go back. We'll reset Jane's password again, which was... Did I close it? Oh, no, it's right down here. There we go. There we go. Jane, your new password, because you complained to HR about our password complexity, is now ABCD 1 2 3 4. Okay. So now if I look at this, it has all of the keystrokes that I just wrote. So this is a great exfiltration activity. Basically, it not only tells you the keystroke, but it tells you which window that you're in. So you can see the start menu, everything that's going on. It's a really cool tool. There's also the inject shellcode, which allows you to inject the shellcode directly into another running process like Notepad or Calc or whatever the case may be. So PowerShell has a lot of great utilities that are out there. The intent of PowerShell is not necessarily so much that you can go out and break something, as much as it is to see if your security settings are actually working. Yeah, you said if you're... What? Can I take the log and replay it? I don't think that's native in PowerShell, though. Who was that? Where are you? All right, come up and grab a beer. Come on. I don't think that they have that natively on there, but you're welcome to reach out to Matt. Matt and Chris, they're not pretentious. They're not elitist developers. So if you ask them for something, they're immediately able to respond. So he's got a bunch of different brews, and he did this himself. So if you die, it's not my fault. You're welcome. It's lorem ipsum, man. It's covered. If you don't know Italian, it's not my problem. So I don't know if you can initially replay that, but if that's something that you wanted, that's something obviously you could do. All right, so let's go on to defense tools for the 3 people that are defense in here. I almost hit Shift F5. Jerks. So there is Powershell, which is something that we've been working on. If you've been following me for any period of time, you know that I've been working on that for about 2 years now. There is some new stuff coming up, which I'm excited to see. One of them is Kanza by Dave Hull. He's working on a great toolkit out there that's meant to also do some of the security stuff, mostly on the forensic side, but also or the incident response side. But then there's also Jared Atkinson, who's working on some similar pieces that as well. These are great tools, and these are people that actually care about what's going on. So they're not out there. All of the tools I'm showing you are GitHub. They're free. They're open source. So go out and grab them. Okay, I'm not showing you anything except for the semantic logos so far that cost money. Okay, so all of this stuff is free. Now, and one of the things I've noticed is that in a lot of organizations, especially when you get to the defense side, free is not always for me. And the reason is because there's that risk. The risk that goes along with it. But I also know that there's a lot of small businesses out there. Small businesses that don't have $300,000 for a new Blinky box. Small businesses that have one IT guy who's their security guy, their IT guy, their desk install maintenance, and the chair squeaky unnader. Okay? Yes, I unsqueakied a chair in my time. So I know that it exists. So if there are tools that are available, the excuse, well, we don't have the resources, is no longer valid. You have the ability to maintain and monitor your tools. So again, I don't have time to cover everything, but I want to go through and look at some of the Powershell stuff that we have built on. Powershell was designed initially by a guy by the name of Will Schroeder and picked up by Matt Johnson after Will died. Before Will died, he and his wife were very impassioned to get security right for people. He was tired of seeing organizations and people going out there and not being able to have the resources to protect themselves. He had a desire to help you. Before Will could do that, he died. And it was an amazing moment when Matt was able to give 1.0 version of Powershell to his wife. That's Will's legacy. Will wasn't doing it to become famous. Will wasn't doing it to get a lot of money. He wanted to help you. And hopefully you guys are able to utilize some of these tools to do exactly that same thing for other people. Go out, play around with it, break stuff in test, and help out other people. So I want to cover that. And not to say that I'm biased to Powershell, because I contribute very little to the PowerShell pieces. Mine's more of the front-end interface, which is that new host application. And not to say I don't want to cover Kanza or InvokeIR, but because I feel like it's something that Will would want. He would want you guys to know about this. So let's look at this next demo. And I'm going to import module /sec. And if you do this, if you do get can module /sec, it'll basically show you everything. We've got about 50 different modules for you. And one of the things that we like to do is we like to create a baseline. Now, a baseline is basically a snapshot of your system in time. And then you compare that to future snapshots of time. When everyone's like, well, what if you're already compromised? I'm like, well, you might already be. But who's to say that that compromise won't lead to something else that'll flag it? If I've got access to your box and I've got free reign, I'm probably going to add another backdoor just because it's, I want to be able to get back in case you find one. So one of the things we like to do is create those baselines. So the thing about it is that in writing all of these policies, I worked with an organization, and we used Powershell to find out. We did an analysis of their domain controller. We pulled out the expiration date on all of their accounts from their domain controller. And there were several of them, probably about 200, that had a negative long integer, the maximum of a long integer as the expiration date. Does anybody know what that means? Yeah, what does that mean? That's exactly it. They've never logged on. Those are those new accounts. Welcome 1234, whatever the month, date, year is. Those are your new accounts that you set up, that you had your people set up, and no one ever used it. Those are all of the accounts that I'm going to attack, and I'm going to attack with every single one of those welcome, your org name, month, year. Because that's exactly what you guys are using for those welcome passwords. Please change me. Change me now. For the love of all things pure and cats and kittens, change. Hi, Ben. You look sexy over there. That's it. That's what we're going to go after. And that's what Powershell does, is it goes through and checks out for all of the accounts that you might have in the negative. The other one we have is this get locked accounts. Can anyone tell me why I'd want to know a locked out account? Yeah, why? Potentially. By the way, the other person back there, you can come grab a beer if you drink. Come on up. Okay. Well, somebody else quickly run up and grab a beer. Yeah, what else? Yeah, so that's it. You can come grab a beer too. So let's think about this, right? So you set your GPO to max retries to 5 or 10, right? Well, if all of a sudden you've got 50 locked out accounts, what does that tell you? Either you've got really bad IT training and people don't know how to type their passwords, or your complexity is too hard, or you might have somebody that's trying to brute force your accounts. Those are the types of things that you can identify. And what the whole idea about Powershell is, it's not meant to be, I'm going to stop everyone that tries to get in. It's impossible. I'm sorry. All of the blinking boxes, no offense to any vendors, they have some great tools out there, and they can really help you. And I'm not bashing anything that they have out there, but nothing is surefire. There's no way, because you could have an insider threat. You could have your IT admin who's just pissed off at you and he decides to go rogue. Well, he already has the passwords to everything, so what are you going to do? So the whole idea about Powershell and a lot of these defensive tools is to give you that information so you can actually identify that, hey, something might be wrong in our system. So one of the things that I like to do is in this Powershell framework, this is my host application. If you remember correctly, this is just C#, and I'm initializing PowerShell, which is I'm just loading up that DLL that goes along with that. So I'm actually going to get rid of this Windows 12 running. Oh, no, I want to keep that one. I want to keep that one? Let's get rid of the Windows 10. Say goodbye, Windows 10. Windows 10. Why is this guy making me talk? I don't want to talk. I'm a computer guy. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. And one of the things that you can do, let's do this. So you guys know this one, push location. Do you guys know that command? It's really cool. Kind of stored up. Hi, Ben. I've got my own little clock down here. I'm good. I've got 20 minutes, right? Uh-huh. But you can set your location. Anyone know what that does? What is that? That's straight into the registry, folks. So if I do this, if I do get item property for the path, which will be this, there's all my startup applications right from my registry. And you can do ls to get other keys. So if I go up a tree, you can see all of the individual directories that go along with it. Isn't that slick? How many knew that one? How many are glad that I showed that one? I am never opening regedit ever again. Because how many of you have wanted the address bar so you could just type the registry path? I went up to them in Windows 10. It's still not there. So I only do this. So if I go in here, so I'm going to, I have to go into regedit. I think I already have it open. So I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, so what we like to do is we like to have persistence if we're a bad guy. So one of the places that we do that is with these startup applications. How many of you guys know for sure every startup application that's on a lot of your, most of your critical asset workstations? And these could even be your servers. How many can tell me that you know for sure everything that's sitting here in this directory right now? And how many of you think that that's a problem? You're right. Well, that's what we do here. So if you look here in PowerShell Framework, I've got this great little thing called something. Startup applications. And this is a cool little tool that will basically monitor those startup applications. So as I said before, this is PowerShell. So here, I'm going to close this out real quick. We're going to look at my processes that are running. Ignore some applications that you may not want to know about. So is PowerShell running? Yes or no? Is PowerShell running? No. So here, I'm going to leave this. It's going to be right here on top. I'm going to type get process. Okay? You guys tell me if you see PowerShell pop up. Anyone? Nope. So guess what? If you're using App Blocker and you choose PowerShell.exe, I still win. Because I've just created my own little host application and hidden it within Notepad. I can't read that sign, dude. It's a white sheet of paper. How much? I've got 2 minutes, so hold on. We got 2 minutes. My clock is good. I'll fix your clock here in a minute. Please don't hurt me. So the point I'm trying to make here is that you can do all of this stuff. Well, one of the things you can do is get all of the listing of your startup applications and then monitor them. The moment that something changes, so here, if I do this monitor startup applications, which is right here. So I'll run this. Here, let me get rid of this. So let me run this real quick. Let's do on my computer. And see, this is the cool thing with this GUI is that I can run a script by just pointing at this and putting in the path file name and whatever the case may be. So if I do baseline.txt and I run it, it's just basically going to tell me that okay, so it created the baseline. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up PowerShell real quick before Ben kicks me off the stage because he loves me. And we're going to do set location, HKLM, and CD Windows. Oh, it also has tab complete. Isn't that slick? Oh yeah, that's true. You would use a PS remoting for all of that. Yeah. Windows current version, run, and set item property, and we will do path, name, ponied, value, C, not a virus.exe. Okay. And we'll force it. Okay. So if I do that run and get item property, for the path. So there's my ponied. Okay, so that's going to start up. So, but if I run my script right here, and I run my monitor startup applications again, and I use that baselines file that I was using before, what do you guys notice right there? Program added. So the whole idea here don't be limited to think of what PowerShell is just based off of that. Matt, all of the people that you see so far, we've envisioned PowerShell to be so much more. You have the ability to do that. PowerShell Framework, all of the code for the GUI, it's free. It's open source. Take it, use it, do whatever you guys want to do with it. I would show you some more slides, but LibreOffice is being a jerk. So here's some resources. Everything is on GitHub. Okay? You can get these slides offline, so that way you don't have to write everything right now. That's the whole reason why I put them out there. I want you guys to go out there. This is how you get a hold of me, guys. Thank you very much. And please, I have 4 people come get a beer. Oh, by the way, I have Posh Sex stickers if you want them. So come on up and grab some.